The New Hampshire primary last night, a big night for Donald Trump, a big night, I think, for Ted Cruz as he exceeded expectations, and a horrible, no good, very bad night for Marco Rubio and Chris Christie and Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina, but mainly for Marco Rubio. In studio, we're going to talk about this. He's hanging out for a little bit in studio. Carl Tepper, Lubbock County Republican chairman. How are you?
Make America great again.
Are you happy? Are you happy with last night's results?
I get such a kick out of how mad people get when Donald Trump wins.
You are a huge, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Huge.
You are a huge fan of Donald Trump.
I'm getting a real kick out of this year's election.
You might be the only one.
I like being a counterculture. You know, the funny thing is the Republican establishment, you know, the elitist they become dog whistles. Constitution, Constitution, vote for me. Liberty, vote for me.
Right.
But here's a guy who's not pandering. Absolutely outrageous. I mean,
you don't think he's
candidate.
pandering? I think he's pandering. I think Trump panders.
I think the Republican Party's gotten itself caught up in say Constitution. By the way, they hate eminent domain. That's in the Constitution, by the way, everyone. Eminent domain is in the Constitution. Fifth Amendment. You might not like it, but it's there. So that means you hate the Constitution. If you don't like eminent domain, you hate the Constitution. These are the type of things I think about when I'm watching these debates. But I think I am looking at the death of political correctness. We're just sick of it. We're sick of being told what to think, what to say, what to do, who to be for. This is their history. We gotcha politics. I got an email this morning. Carl, he said that Bill Clinton was the greatest president ever. Well, he's destroying them now. What about now?
Well, he won big. He won big. And here's what I love. After Trump lost Iowa and Ted Cruz won in Iowa, and he didn't steal the election. I mean, come on. There weren't that many votes out there, that he could have stolen from Ben Carson.
I tend to agree with you.
That was overblown. I even think that the Rubio thing was overblown by the media in the debate because I thought it was a bad 5 minutes. But overall, I thought he had a fine debate. Right. What I love from some of those in the media is they wrote off Donald Trump immediately after Iowa.
It's still kind of writing him off. I mean, all the articles are about where's Rubio, where's Bush. I mean, those guys were a distant 3 and 4 and 5, and they're still not really talking about it. It's sort of a Donald Trump, Kardashian type stories. Yeah. But the guy is right now leading by far.
This is why I said
Republican nomination.
This is why I say he's not dead. He's leading in South Carolina. He's, if you just want to skip to Texas, he's neck and neck with Ted Cruz in Texas. I mean, it's a very close race between he and Ted Cruz in Texas, and no one else is even close to those two here in Texas. I would assume in other states, and I haven't gone through every single poll out there, but I would assume in a majority of the states, Donald Trump's leading, right now. Even in Florida, he was leading Jeb and Marco Rubio in Florida. So, I mean, this guy right now, you have to say that he's the odds-on favorite.
He's the odds-on favorite
to be the nominee.
And what the Republican Party, the activists don't understand is, for example, I was cleaning out trash bins in the back of a building yesterday, and a fella who I know walked out who had his hands up in, he makes casts for people. And so he had plaster all over his arms, and he said, "Carl, what are we going to do? Who do we vote for? Who's going to be our nominee?" I'm like, "Look, don't be mad. I'm voting for Trump." He goes, "Me too." So they're all looking for it to be okay. They're very quietly. So whenever I talk to the man on the street and a lot of the women on the street, it's wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, me too. I'm voting for Trump, and they're not going to come out with it. There's not a lot of bumper stickers. They're not as outward with it as a Ted Cruz because they're tired of being bashed. And don't you know he's for Bill Clinton? And don't you know this? No, they don't want to hear that garbage anymore. Okay.
If Donald Trump, let me ask you this, because you know the baggage with Donald Trump.
There's more than you can fill in a Walmart shopping cart.
So if Donald Trump, if we're looking at Donald Trump and forget about his persona, so we take away the persona, we take away the name Donald Trump, and put Jeb. People would hate him, correct?
Probably so.
They would hate him. So okay, so if you take that and you then put
I
Donald
think the
Trump's
difference
name,
is
what's the difference?
I think the difference is, Chad, they all have all this garbage, or they pretend not to and they do. And Donald Trump just admits it. I think there's less of a hypocrisy factor here. Like, yes, I've had these marriages, I've had affairs, I've supported this guy who you hate, that guy who you hate. I've said nice things about that person. You know what? So what? And I think it's liberating all of us in a way, in that, yeah, I've got baggage too. You know, my neighbor has baggage. My wife has. Everybody has baggage.
It's the baggage election.
It's almost like, yes, let's embrace the baggage. We're human beings.
I don't know if that's a good bumper sticker, Carl.
Embrace the baggage.
I don't think that's a good bumper sticker.
I kind of like embrace the baggage, Trump.
I don't know. It could. I mean, this is setting up where it could be. I think right now, heading into South Carolina, it's now a two-man race between Trump and Cruz. In the establishment, they've got to decide who they're going to like, and I think they're going to like Donald Trump more than they like Ted Cruz. I
am surprised. I mean, aren't you surprised? South Carolina is a Southern Baptist. You know,
sure.
I'm surprised, Ted, and it could really quickly change this week. So I'm curious to see.
Well, I mean, you look at the debate. I mean, if you go back to New Hampshire, Marco Rubio, for some people, was on the way to even eclipsing Donald Trump in New Hampshire. That was the trend line, and then he has a bad debate, and he finally admitted that last night, which I sort of liked. He had a bad moment in the debate, and, I mean, he imploded. His campaign, I don't want to say it's over, because I think it's too early to say that it's over, because, like you said, anything could happen in South Carolina and Florida and going forward. But it's not looking good for Marco Rubio. For Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, it's going to be a battle between those two guys in the next 10 days. Who knows what's going to happen?
Anything can happen, and I don't want to overlook the issues either. You know, this guy came and talked about the immigration, which has been a real common occurrence here in Texas, where Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick were very tough on immigration, talked about diseases coming over and all these outrageous things, apparently. And it reverberated here in Texas. We didn't have any idea that it would reverberate nationally, which is what Donald Trump did. He talked about the same exact issues in the same exact tone and manner as our statewide elected officials did, and it is reverberating across the country. And then he started talking about China, which he's been real consistent with. Yeah. He talked about Japan years ago, which is still happening over in Japan. Of course, China is, exponentially bigger, and the trade issues are the same. And he started talking about China and Japan. So I don't want to overlook the issues. He's grabbed onto some issues that have really been troublesome for Americans and under their skin, and he's brought them to the forefront, and it's reverberating.
Do you think that the Republicans who like him, who in the past have really cared about flip-flops, though, and they've cared about the single-payer health care stuff. They've cared about that. Yeah. Now they're sort of abandoning that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't think they're abandoning it. I think, we're nervous about it too. But you know what? These other candidates get elected and they screw us over too. So at least this guy tells us what's really on his mind, what's going on. Hopefully we can wrangle him up. I think there's been an awakening there, by the way. But I think we can wrangle him up. Maybe Ted Cruz would be a nice vice president, to keep him straight in the White House. But right now, this guy's killing it, and we'll see where it goes.
Let's go to the phones. And Sandra. Hello, Sandra. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I know one Sandra.
Yeah, I know. I just had to call in and break up this Donald Trump love fest.
Oh, hey, please do.
Heavens forbid somebody in Texas likes Donald Trump.
Well, I for one don't feel the slightest bit liberated by all his baggage. I don't think he's at all telling it like it is. I think he's he's sticking his finger in the wind, and he's saying what he thinks people want to hear, which is why there's so many inconsistencies that anybody could point to. And I tell you what, if he ever came to Texas, I think I'd have to show up to his event. I mean, if he comes and does a rally anywhere near us, I think I might have to show up in a Bimbos for Ted Cruz shirt, because I might ask him a tough question, which I think by definition would make me a bimbo, and they're clearly not welcome in his coalition. So if
Ted Cruz showed up to Texas, would you ask him a tough question if he ever showed up out here?
That is cute. That is really cute, Carl. But I'm
because he hasn't been here in 3 years. He came out here. Is he still a senator from Texas?
He came out here.
Oh, he was here for the Republican women's. Yeah, he was here about 15 minutes. That was good too. It was fun. I got some pictures.
Right. Well, I just think that to say
the farmers wanted to ask him some tough questions here in West Texas, and he hasn't been out here to talk to them either.
Well, I'm sure that Donald Trump really reflects Texas values and conservative values better than a constitutional conservative. I mean, that's what you're really asking people to think. And I don't buy it at all. I don't buy it at all that Donald Trump is an authentic, he's just telling it like it is. Well, was he telling it like it is when he liked single payer, when he liked eminent domain?
Let me ask you
crony
this.
capitalist purposes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Carl, do you think that Donald Trump's a conservative?
I think he's starting to lean that way. Is that good enough for most people? No.
Yeah.
For most conservatives, no.
Yeah. And see, that's why I'm not gung ho for Trump.
This is where
because I agree with a lot of what Sandra is saying about. I think the guy knows how to play people.
This is where we in Lubbock have a hard time identifying with the rest of the country. It's real easy to be and spout these words and these become dog whistles, constitutional conservatives. But when you're in New York, that's why I appreciate Chris Christie, and I've always loved Rudy Giuliani too, where if you're in Austin or if you're in New York City or Cleveland, Ohio, it's a different world. And you are trying to, his purpose in life was to build buildings. That's his purpose. That's what his profession is.
Yeah.
And so you do what you have to do to get those buildings built and put those parcels together and get it done. So it's a different world. You don't get to just spout constitutional conservative and it's a dog whistle everybody runs to you. It's not like that in New York City. You have to work really hard to build, coalitions to get your purpose done. With Rudy Giuliani, it was to become mayor. Donald Trump to become a developer, and for Chris Christie to become a governor. And it's not that easy. It's not like Lubbock, Texas, where you get to just spout these words and again, these dog whistles and expect everybody to run over to you and vote for you. It's done differently in the Northeast and really the rest of the country. We are the oddities right now.
See, here's my idea, Sandra, okay? I think we need to get both Donald Trump and Ted Cruz here in Lubbock. And
he won't come. We've asked Ted Cruz to come here.
The three of us will moderate a debate between those two. What do you think?
Oh, I think that would be fantastic.
I think it'd be great. I think it would be huge.
Pigs have sprouted wings, and Ted Cruz is coming to Texas.
The hate coming across. Sandra, thank you very much. This is gonna be fun.
I'll tell you, I like everything Ted Cruz says, but again, he's been running for president the second he got elected for this so-called constitutional conservative who wants less government. He's gotten a government paycheck his entire life, I think. I think he had a short time in private practice, but I'm starting to look. I'm getting older. I'm starting to look at what people have done, not what they say. And so in the Senate, it's tough. You have to build coalitions.
It almost sounds like what you don't, for a lot of those who don't buy what Trump is selling,
I don't buy with Ted Cruz.
Yeah,
I don't buy with Ted. I appreciate the color and the gleam of it and all that, but I haven't seen any action to follow up. When I have farmers in West Texas, and I mean farm groups, the powerful, they have questions about the farm bill. They want to visit with their U.S. senator, and he was too busy. As a matter of fact, it's very insulting. I get these emails about, hey, there's going to be a leadership call, a Ted Cruz leadership call, and I get these 2 or 3 times a year. And you don't get to talk to the senator's senior staff. Woo, wow, I get to talk to senior staff. This guy has never done the job as U.S. senator, and it's really gotten under my skin.
Visiting with Carl Tepper, Lubbock County chairman. We'll take the break. When we come back, we're going to have more fun. We'll talk about the election overall, and I also want to get Carl's take on the Democratic race, because if you think the Republicans are in a civil war, just wait for the Democrats. It's about to get nasty on that side. And their war is going to be a lot nastier than the Republicans, I think. We'll be right back. Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Chad Hasty with the chairman of the Lubbock County Republican Party.
Can you tell I'm not running for anything? I'm going to be in so much trouble.
How many people have sent you angry? Because this is Ted Cruz country.
I think everyone's looking at me and shaking their heads. Really, Carl? Really?
This is Ted Cruz country, and this is not. This
Funny
is,
thing
this
is,
is not.
He's 50-50 with Ted Cruz.
Not out here in West Texas.
From my understanding, out here in West Texas.
You think so?
Yeah. That's what I've seen. I don't know if it's true or not.
What do you think about Rubio? You think he's done? Or you think Rubio has a chance?
You and I both saw the same article in Politico today that it's the GOP establishment staring into the abyss. Of course, we had this conversation during the break. Marco Rubio, I've always appreciated him because he tried to do something. I think Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and Mike Lee, and I agree with everything they say, and I appreciate their stance on the issues. But I think someone needed to tell them that when you run for the U.S. Senate, it's a legislative body. You might have to work with other people who didn't necessarily agree with you, and you might have to compromise and make a deal. And so I've always appreciated Marco Rubio, and it was a terrible bill in the end, and he backed away from it, but at least he tried.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this. I like how he comes out and says, look, this is not where the American public is. This is not what. And he's been accused of cutting and running from that. But I look at it as this is a guy who knows where the public stands on things. And he's not going to try to shove it down your throat, unlike President Obama, who would just sign an executive order and say, well, if you don't like it, get over on the President of the United States. What I hear from Rubio and others out there who are running is, we're not going to do that. We're not going to sign an executive order and, just make you deal with it.
No, it was. It's an issue that's been on the forefront. Of course, Trump has brought it to the forefront again, but those guys gave it a real college try, and I wouldn't mind them trying again. Look, there are those of us who are living out here in the real world. We're not retired. We still have to make a living. In Lubbock, Texas, things are pretty good, not great. In the rest of the country, apparently, it's still terrible.
Yeah.
And I've got a 28% capital gains rate on real estate investments, and so they were 15%, I think, a year and a half ago. And so it's killed deals. And so while everybody else is spouting Constitution, freedom, liberty, Jesus, some of us are out here saying, enough. I want a deal. I'm about as conservative as they come. But I'm really annoyed. I'm sick of the dog whistles, and I'm sick of the rest of everybody telling me what to think all the time, or you're going to be in trouble with this voting block or something, and we're sick of it. And we want to see a deal. Yes, we want a deal maker.
So you think Trump wins this thing?
I don't know. And honestly, I get on Ted Cruz real hard. I think if it's not Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, we're in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. I think the people are wanting something a little more. Donald Trump and Ted Cruz bring – I hate to use the word outrageous. They bring a non-traditional, process into the process, and I think that the Republican Party desperately needs something out of the box right now. And right now, the only guys are Donald Trump and Ted Cruz.
What I like about Donald Trump, and I'll give him credit, and I'm harsh on Donald Trump.
Right.
What I like about Donald Trump and appreciate is that I think he has maybe brought in some new thought, brought up the maybe the tone of the election, but people are paying attention to what's going on.
Look, these trade with China, Japan, the immigration issue, some common sense things like let Putin use his bombs against ISIS for a change. Let somebody else jump in and use their oil money and their bombs and things. Yeah, it's things like that. Absolute common sense that the average American public understands is what makes Donald Trump so attractive.
When we come, you want to stick around for one more segment?
You bet.
You good with that? All right. When we come back, the chairman of the Lubbock County Trump Party will join us one more segment. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a luxurious statement.
The best.
It's going to be wonderful.
Terrific.
We'll be right back. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. My favorite thing is that when I get emails and messages from people who automatically assume who I like in the race, I'm still undecided on it. There are things that I like about Donald Trump. And number one, and it's sort of what you bring up, is I'm going to say whatever I feel like saying. I like that. I like the non-PC thing of Donald Trump. I like that he's brought up immigration and made that a focal point of his campaign. Really made the other campaigns focus on it.
At first I thought it was a white guy backlash. But he's got huge African-American support, apparently.
What are you talking about, white guy backlash?
It was a white guy backlash that we're tired of the PC. We're tired of having to be careful what to say, what to do, what to think. And so this guy comes out unabashed. He's a billionaire. He doesn't care. And he's saying whatever he wants. And I thought it would be maybe just attractive to white men. But he's having incredible support among the African American community as well. So.
Well, I think it's attractive to anybody because there is way too much political correctness out there. But I think that look, you look at a lot of these candidates. You look at Trump. You look at Ted Cruz. You look at I think Rubio. I don't know who else in the Republican Party. I think the three of them could defeat Hillary or Bernie Sanders.
I think we need to get out and work it. But
Jeb, I don't know.
I think it's an incredible year for the Republican Party. We've never seen anything like this before, and despite some of the fun I'm having here this morning, I would happily walk blocks, travel to walk blocks, and vote for any of these guys and get people out to vote for them.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the Democrats. Last night, the Democrats had lower turnout in New Hampshire than the Republicans did. There's that enthusiasm gap, and we've talked about that the last couple of presidential elections benefiting the Democrats. This year, I think all signs point to the enthusiasm gap benefiting the Republicans this time, right?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt, except this Bernie Sanders thing is very interesting, and I was listening to his speech last night. It scared me to death.
Yes.
Or I was inspired. Does that mean I can just lay on my couch and take some college classes and I'm good to go?
He's going to give you a free house, a free car,
right.
A free plot of land. Everything's free.
Everything was free, and have at it. And you're
free Metamucil. It's great.
Here you go. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. There was a whole speech, and a bunch of people were cheering. And who's going to pay for it? The government. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're a dumpster fire. And I think what you've seen in the Republicans, everyone says it's nasty between Trump and Cruz, Christie, who's out of it. I mean, there are rumors that he's going to suspend his campaign today, and Rubio, that they say that's nasty. If you think that's nasty, you haven't seen the Clintons and Bernie Sanders going after each other, and that's going to get bad.
And the reading on the political websites has just been phenomenal. I mean, she is going to turn over staff and all this. Hillary, we just don't like you. You're not likable. Your voice is shrill. You've been a disaster at anything you've ever done, from Travelgate, the White House, your husband. You failed at his health care reform. Then you were a very mediocre U.S. senator. Then you were defeated handily by a no-name out of Illinois, Barack Obama, that your campaign was a disaster. Then you became Secretary of State. What an incredible! I mean, you have Russia breathing down our necks again. You have ISIS. You have Iran. You've got North Korea who's got missiles. She's just terrible at anything she's ever touched or done. She's not Bill. She doesn't have that charisma. And I predicted, by the way, I might have been on this station and some others, predicting, I think a year and a half, 2 years ago, I predicted she would not be the nominee, and I still believe that. She's just a disaster.
You think Bernie wins it?
I think Bernie wins it, and I think the Democratic Party is scared to death because then the focus comes on him and his belief system.
You think Michael Bloomberg jumps in? If Bernie is edging close, I think if Hillary goes into Nevada, she goes into some of these other states, and she starts winning, I don't think Bloomberg jumps in.
That Bloomberg thing does have me a little concerned, and Bloomberg doesn't jump in to win. Bloomberg jumps in to probably destroy Ted Cruz or Donald Trump and help the Democrats through. So,
you think Republicans would vote for Bloomberg?
I think he's it's a general election, so it's striking it for an independent just to take enough votes away from the Republicans.
See, I think that he would take votes away from the Democrat. I mean, we're talking about Bloomberg who wants to take your guns away.
Right.
He wants to take your big cokes away. I mean, he's known for being a big government guy. I don't know how any Republican votes for him.
I hope you're right there. I think, but right now I'm a little worried that he would take more votes away from the Republican nominee, and it's an unknown factor that I'm a little concerned about.
Okay, if you're a Republican and you vote for Michael Bloomberg, get your head examined. You're an idiot.
But they're not. These are the people that, probably 60 to 80% of the general election voters who don't identify themselves as Republican or Democrat. They just vote for the person. If someone says something that seems reasonable to them, they're going to vote for them.
You think Crazy Joe gets in? Crazy Uncle Joe Biden?
No, I don't see Joe Biden.
You think Elizabeth Warren wishes she would have gotten in?
I think Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden at this point wishes he would have gotten in.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone on the Democratic side saw Hillary Clinton. If you think that she won Iowa, I think that there was some iffy results there in Iowa. But let's go ahead and go along with the party line that she won Iowa. She got dominated in New Hampshire, and now what they're hoping on, the Clinton campaign, is that all of a sudden now they're going to go to states with minorities. That Iowa didn't have enough minorities, that New Hampshire, it's full of white people, and white people maybe they just like Bernie Sanders better than they like Hillary Clinton. That's her whole campaign now, is hoping for black and Hispanic turnout.
She was destroyed by women. She was destroyed by women in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Women overwhelmingly voted for Bernie.
Yeah, and the only age group that went for Hillary, women over the age of 65.
Do women, I wish we had a caller, do women get offended that everyone just assumes a woman will vote for another woman? If I found a Republican candidate who is a woman, Carly Fiorina, I love Carly Fiorina, by the way, I would have happily, I was seriously looking at Carly Fiorina for a little while, and I just don't make that determination. Well, it has to be a man. I guess we just don't think that way anymore. That absolutely, because we had Margaret Thatcher for years, and we just still just love her and worship her. So I'm surprised that the Democrats are still going down that road where, well, you have to vote for a woman. You're going to hell if you don't vote for a woman.
I had this conversation earlier with someone, and I saw a pretty good discussion on this, and it was a few weeks back on CNN, actually. And it was in 2016. And when you look at Hillary Clinton, you think about what, if you want to call it accomplishments, whatever. But you've had women who are head of have been CEOs. You've had Secretary of State. It's not looked at as breaking that glass ceiling anymore for a large amount of women, especially for younger women out there. How this, I can't remember her name on CNN. She said it's just not looked at that way. And among younger women, they don't see it as, now this goes against every feminist talking point that has been out there for the last, eon of years. But they don't look at it that way. They look at it as, that we want free stuff instead of we've got to have Hillary break that glass ceiling. There's no more glass ceiling.
I think once Barack Obama got elected, that glass ceiling for minorities and women was broken, and I think it kind of covered everyone. So
that was Hillary's one shot, I think, of playing the I'm different card, of playing the gender or race card. That was it. And Barack Obama was it. That's how he got elected. And Hillary doesn't have that card to play. So now her card is, hey, I'm more friendly towards blacks and Hispanics. And if you're Bernie Sanders, is there anything out there that shows that Bernie Sanders doesn't like, black or Hispanic voters?
The guy is a hardcore liberal. He's probably self-loathing Jewish white guy. And so he's going to be just as attractive, I guess, to the black.
I would think so.
I have to tell you, and this is where the interesting thing about it, I'm curious to see if Ted Cruz is reverberating with blacks. We know Donald Trump is. And, Barack Obama's been president for almost 8 years now, another year, I guess, 7 years. And the condition of black America is as bad, if not worse, than it's ever been. So I've talked to quite a few preachers here in town and black professionals, and they're starting to get tired of being taken for granted. Hope that's true. We're going to see what happens this year.
Well, and I think for the Bernie Sanders campaign, this is what I would start launching. Who is president under mandatory minimums? Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton ushered that in, and there is a large segment, right or wrong, large segment of this society that blames Bill Clinton and blames that mandatory minimum for locking up a bunch of black men. Yeah. And if you're Bernie Sanders, you're getting that stuff out as quickly as possible right now and linking Bill Clinton and Hillary to mandatory minimums.
Yeah, where did you get? I hadn't even thought of that, so I don't know where you read that, but it's an interesting.
I just thought of it. Man.
I'm just finding there's been a national debate with in Black America right now where a lot of black leadership is saying, you know what's going on here? We've been doing this for 50 years, 60 years, and we've got the same results. That's insanity. Maybe we should start looking at the other guys. And one of the biggest failures I've had or shortcomings is not reaching out better to the black community. It's just always been a time factor. I hope Steve picks that up and runs with it. I think he's going to do a great job at that, and try to get and try to reach out to our black brothers and sisters here in Lubbock. Now, we've done the Juneteenth parade, and we were welcomed with open arms. Yeah. With blatant Republican Party, paraphernalia and the horses and everything, and we were just open with welcome arm. We were welcomed with open arms, and that was one of the funnest events we've ever done. So I want to do more of that outreach.
Carl, thanks for stopping by today.
Thanks, Chad.
Appreciate it.